Good
And
morning.
we're off. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And a Happy New Year. Is there a standard, is there a federal standard on how long we can wish people Happy New Year after January 1st?
I'm not sure that the government's come up with one, but I'm sure maybe we'll get there one day,
Somebody's
Bill.
working on it. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a committee.
Yes.
Sirree.
Yes,
We're the
yes.
committee in this country and the world. I love the committee on committees. That's one of my favorites. Yes, sirree.
Yeah, how they get things done, right, Bill?
Yeah, it was, I think it was one of they've established, the guy who was in charge of, who established General Motors, working in his laboratory one day. And somebody came running in and said, Charlie Lindbergh just flew the Atlantic Ocean alone. And he said, well, that's nothing. Let him try it with a committee. So,
Good luck, sir.
Yeah, there you go.
Good luck, sir.
Nevertheless, we have interesting news this morning that it's as hard as it is to believe. Mayor Van Johnson has announced his intention to run once again for mayor. Nothing new about that. Nobody's surprised about that. And we are still wondering if the Republicans are going to get their act together and not do this clown show that they've been going through, so that we can get something done up in Washington for a change.
Well, and I'm not shocked about Van Johnson. I'm interested to see what his platform will look like or what he's going to run on. He also has Keisha Gibbs Carter, I believe is her name, who also has Gibson Carter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she is, I believe she also is going to run. She said so last year, but things can change. So waiting to hear her official announcement and potentially seeing if there is going to be a Republican, which I think would be a good option for Savannah.
Yeah, we're wondering if the Republicans have a candidate, because we certainly haven't heard about one. But if you know, get in touch with us, granewsmedia.com.
Yes, and hopefully we will hear some news. I believe that they have to register by March for qualifications. So we should know in the next several months if that is happening.
Meanwhile, and this is something that I didn't know. This is something that I saw in the Savannah Morning News, which is you get yesterday's news tomorrow.
Yes.
But they had they had a press conference. The mayor had a press conference, and apparently John Ossoff, who never returns our phone calls, are one of our empty suits up there in the Senate in Washington, and also the other empty suit in the incompetent member of the Energy Department, chairman of the Energy Department, or the administrator, Jennifer Granholm, who formerly was a governor of Michigan and did a very lousy job there. So obviously, since she didn't know what she was doing in Michigan, they knew that she was incompetent. So why not put her in charge of our Energy Department? And she's the one who, when asked by a reporter, what can we do to bring down the price of gasoline and get more gasoline? And she just went into hysterics. Says, oh, we just, Saudi Arabia just, we could just do so much with them. Ma'am, you're standing on the biggest oil and energy supply in the world. It's interesting that she was in town because Savannah has announced some big solar panel plan of some sort of thing, Brittany.
Yes, we didn't really get a whole lot. It was more of a word salad from what I saw, but we're looking into that to see what exactly this solar program is that they've just announced here in Savannah. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like, but like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of detail from the mayor yesterday. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, but it's interesting that solar works when the sun's shining. Windmills work once in a while when the wind's blowing. Of course, the wind can't blow too hard, or you can't run the windmills because it's dangerous.
Well, I also think it's interesting to think of energy a little bit differently. I heard someone explain it to me as it is energy harvesting when you're taking solar and windmills, and it doesn't mean that the harvest is always going to be good because it's unpredictable. So I think that that's something that we should really start to talk about, is that we're not creating energy with windmills or solar. We are harvesting that energy, and it's not guaranteed.
No, so that's one of the reasons that Georgia is the only state that so far in the last 40, almost 50 years now, that has never built a nuclear power plant. We're finally getting another one online. There should be another one right after that, unless the Biden administration decides they're going to shut that project down. Because nuclear energy is the cleanest and also the most reliable. It works 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Interesting, Brittany, an energy expert that I heard on WOR in New York last night was talking about things like windmills. I remember when one of the radio announcers was saying that he was driving through Oklahoma and he's passing this big windmill farm, and the wind was blowing pretty good, and none of the windmills were turning, and he was wondering why. And it turns out that the reason that the wind can't blow, if the wind is blowing over 40 miles an hour, the windmills can't run because it's too strong. And then this expert told us about how much energy it takes to make one windmill. Did you think about this? It takes more, coal-fired power plants and other things to make this stuff, because how much concrete do you think it takes to put in the ground to hold one of these things up?
Oh, I'm sure it is absolutely insane.
30 tons.
That's crazy, Bill.
30
I don't.
For one windmill. Then there's all the rebar and other things that go in so that it will stay up.
Well, not only that, they only last for 10 years, and they're burying them in the poorest counties in the U.S.
Yeah, and the blades are. I saw one up in Charleston, up close,
Mm-hmm.
so where they were where they're manufacturing these things, and I'm driving in a car, and it takes like 30 seconds to drive past this thing. They had one displayed in front of the building where they make this crap, and it was just unbelievable how big this thing was.
I believe it's the length of a football field, isn't it?
Something along those
Yes,
lines.
so
yeah.
they're very, very large.
And when it gets cold and ice forms on these things, and then it starts to thaw out. I worked at a television station up in Charleston where we were at the site of the transmitter and the tower. And I remember an ice storm we had one time, and the ice started melting off of the guy wires, and we had all sorts of car damage.
Oh, I bet you did.
And that was just little chunks.
Yep.
These things can be 40, 50 pounds.
Imagine where it gets really, really cold and it snows and things like
Yeah.
that in those areas like
And they
Wyoming.
don't even work. You
Yep.
can ask the people of Texas. Remember 2 or 3 years ago
Yeah.
when everybody was out of power in Texas
Yep.
because they depended too much on Texas, for goodness sakes. It's got more oil practically than Saudi Arabia. And they've got windmills.
Well-
And by the way, they've just opened a new windmill farm, I think, off the coast of New Jersey. So they've got one out there, which is going to screw up the fishing lanes and a lot of other projects as well. And so far, no windmill farm has worked very well.
Well, also the federal government is not releasing how many bald eagles it's killing a year, which I think is interesting that they
Or bats.
yeah.
Or other birds. Yeah.
So-
yeah. Where's all the where are the environmental
Environmentalists.
people?
Yeah.
Where are all the bird and nature people?
They only analyze in silos, so
Uh-huh.
they only analyze what they think is important, but they don't actually look at the effects of everything all
Exactly.
in one swoop. So I think
these
that
things-
is part of the problem.
These things are an absolute disaster, and so are solar panels.
Yes. Well, speaking of a disaster,
Yeah.
the DA's office continues to be something we're going to talk about because we just lost 2 more ADAs in the DA's office. I believe that takes us under 20 ADAs to cover the whole county, which 43 is fully staffed. So, and from what I understand, the most experienced person was it left the office. I'm not sure if there was a resignation or it was a termination, but definitely a huge problem, especially since they are now postponing another case from 2019. It is a murder case, and the judge said if they are not ready to take it to court by February, he will have no choice but to dismiss this case, which would be a travesty.
So once again, justice is not being served, and we're up against people who don't want to see. And I don't know what the end game is here. If you have nothing but criminals running around the streets, how is that a good thing, even for the people who are advocating it? Because sooner or later they're going to come after you. So I do not understand that this we need to understand these people. No, they don't. That we need to get them behind bars, or if they are mentally ill, we need to get them some sort of mental health treatment, because that was something that was closed down once upon a time by Democrats. So because that was too cruel to put these people up in these so-called asylums. They tried to and they had such they gave them such bad reputations, and maybe in some cases justified, but in other cases We need to get these people help. We need to get them off the streets so they don't harm themselves or somebody else. Most of them are not dangerous, but when you have them in big numbers and when you continue to ignore the problem, it just exacerbates the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think I will give her credit. Our current DA. She did promise that she was going to clear the jails and that she would make sure.
Going to clear that docket.
Yeah, so
it's called ignoring it.
Yeah, so you get what you vote for. So just remember that as we go into another election cycle, which does include a lot of our city councils around Chatham County.
You don't always get the government you want, but you'll certainly get the government you deserve. And the people who stayed home, like those who said that they weren't going to vote for Herschel Walker because they didn't like him, or if you voted for Governor Kemp and you didn't vote for Herschel at the same time, then a pox on both your houses, because look what you've stuck us with.
Yes, and I think we're going to see how important those Senate seats are.
Sure are.
It's going to be an interesting 2023. I think I said yesterday, I hope that we see some more wins. However, I am expecting some big losses this year just because of the strategy with the Republicans is not where it needs to be.
No, it isn't. But we will plow on, and that's one of the reasons that we're here. We want to hear from you. GRAnewsmedia.com, and get your comments and suggestions on what we need to do.
Yeah, comment on Facebook. We do read those out live, so it's really important that we hear what you guys have to say, because I think you guys are also in touch with different parts of the community than we're in touch with, so let us know what you think.
We do have I think, an excellent candidate for a young man who wants to be the district attorney and wants to clean up the situation here. And we had spoken with him in the past. This is a situation where we need to get at least here in Savannah. We haven't had some of the problems that other communities have had. We actually like our police here. We're increasing the starting salaries for police officers. We have a lot we've invited others from big cities to come down and enjoy the sunny South, shall we say, from places like New York and Philadelphia and elsewhere Baltimore, that don't appreciate their cops. So come on down to the sunny sunshine and sunny South.
Yes, we would love to have more police officers, and we do have a new police chief here, as we talked about yesterday, which I think, hopefully he can build out a great team here. And
Lenny Gunther, Congratulations. We're for you. We're behind you. Anything that you need, you just let us know. And we already have an excellent police chief in Jeff Hadley in the Chatham County Police Department. We have a great sheriff in John Wilshire. So hopefully we can at least keep Savannah's streets safe.
Yes, absolutely. And, I will say that, there's always a shooting here. And I don't know that it has always been that way. We're seeing them in 5 o'clock in the morning, Bill. Like that just seems,
yeah. Yeah, we've had them, and but we certainly need to clear it up, and we need more of the they're not called SWAT teams, of course, are emergency type situations, but there are these guys that go in and sort of clean up the streets and really going after the bad guys. We had talked with our good buddy Kevin Grogan, who is a former police officer, wrote a book, Black Sheep, White Cop, and also has a new one out called Ruffian. And they're even talking to him about a television series on that. So we'll have more about Kevin and others coming up. But also next,
we're going to be talking about the shenanigans going on in the House these days. So looking forward to that discussion.
Yes, sirree. That's next.
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the Southeast Georgia Republican Assembly for all their efforts on making a difference in our communities.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Love that
morning.
picture of me interviewing you. That was
That was the early days, Bill.
right. Welcome back to Get Real America, and Happy New Year. We're still trying to figure out exactly how long we need to say that.
Yes. We're consulting with some government officials to figure that out.
Exactly right. Maybe next time John Ossoff is in town, we can talk to him about it.
Yeah, don't hold your breath there, Bill. But
No,
maybe.
I won't. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you and I disagree a little bit on this topic of this House shenanigan that's going on. There was not a speaker chosen yesterday. They had 3 votes. Kevin McCarthy didn't have the votes, and they...
First time that's happened since 1923, 100 years.
Yes, and, they adjourned last night. They will be back at noon today to try again. We will see kind of what happens. I don't know if there will be I hope that there was some hard negotiations, not sure what that will look like, but I do think that there are some things that Kevin McCarthy would need to do in order to get that speaker seat, because he has been less than clear on some of the steps he would take, which I think is really important, especially since we know that Kevin McCarthy cannot be trusted.
Well, nevertheless, there's nobody else that's even close as far as getting votes go, and you can stand on principle all you want to, but sooner or later the tide comes in, and you can get swept away. The last thing we want is Hakeem Jeffries, the racist leader of the Democrat Party, and home of the Ku Klux Klan. But nevertheless, that is just absolutely pathetic that the Republican and it's being made into a joke. They're being made a laughingstock by the media. The Democrats are having a field day with this. I mean, even AOC, the smartest bartender on the planet, was just saying, how much they were enjoying this, and just seeing the Republicans duke this one out. And this hasn't happened, as we said, in 100 years, and that was the first time in 1923 since the Civil War. So it's been a while since we've had this kind of argument. We're not going to get anything done, and the American people want some things done. They made that at least clear, of the fact that we got a majority of Republicans, slim though it was, in the House. And we can't get anything done, no committees appointed, no investigations going on without a House Speaker. And this needs to get done. McCarthy has even agreed to, and something that Nancy Pelosi didn't do, he said he would agree to a no confidence vote in 3 to 6 months or something if they were not happy with the direction he was going. Sometimes you have to go with the devil you know rather than the devil you don't. And unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of Kevin McCarthy either, but we need to get him in as Speaker so that we can finally get all these committees set up and finally do the things that we want to see done, that we voted for. And we can't do that without a Speaker.
And I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, I just don't understand how we can want something so different and things to change, but we keep electing the same leadership. They have not done what they should have done, and he's been there for 16 years. What has he done?
Congressman Chip Roy pointed that out last night on the Ingram angle with Laura Ingram, and said, that look, you guys are becoming a laughingstock, and Roy pointed out some of the grievances that they have, and he made a great argument. Except when you've only got 20 votes for anybody else and 200 plus for the guy that's running, let's just acquiesce at this point and say we will get things done. If we don't like this guy, then like we said, we can go through the no confidence vote or whatever. But it's interesting from a standpoint of the Constitution, because anybody can be Speaker of the House.
I know. Why don't they grow some kahunas and elect Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, yeah.
See who votes for that, and see then what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would be hysterical. That's a pipe dream.
It is a pipe dream, but at the end of the day, I think people want. We do want things to happen. We do want things to move forward, but from my perspective, I just feel like this is how we've gotten here, is we've continued to make concessions as Republicans, where on the Democrat side, you don't step out of line and you will do as you're told. On the Republican side, we make all these concessions with the Democrats and with the establishment, and that's how we've gotten here. And that's my concern, is that we're going to see the same old thing that we've always seen, because Kevin McCarthy, he said that Trump was responsible for January 6th. I mean, he has come out and paid money against other Republicans, which is why we have a slim majority in the House, because he, didn't help the causes of other Republicans. And, I don't know. I have very strong feelings of the fact that we have continued to have concessions for different things, and we always get what we deserve, like you say. Mm-hmm. And if we keep making these concessions, at what point are we just going to continue down the path of being sold out? Well,
if you want the Democrats in charge, go ahead and continue to just make that to stand on that principle.
What Republican is going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries? He cannot get to 218 because if they vote for a Democrat, they're done politically.
Uh-huh.
So,
listen, they might be some some squeaky ones in there, and we'll find out. But it is pathetic, because one of the things that AOC said last night was that we Democrats were very happy. We were standing together, and they always do. They always circle the wagons. They always stand up for these people, no matter how despicable they are, and no matter whatever they happen to be doing unconstitutionally or criminally, and they stand up for them. And I'm not saying that ain't a good thing. But at the same time, the Republicans need to start standing together as well, and we need to get a speaker, and we need to get things done. You don't like the guy. There's a lot of things that we disagree about, but one of the things that we need to agree on is that we need to get this country back on the right track, and let's at least give the guy a chance. And if he said that he would agree to a no confidence vote, then we don't like what he's doing in 3 to 6 months, he's out of there.
Yeah, but I think we'll be in the same situation, because you have people making all of these deals behind closed doors. The reason Buddy Carter is voting for him is because he wants to be the chair of the budget committee. So there have been all of these deals cut. And at the end of the day, in 6 months, they're already more solidified. So I don't think we're going to get anywhere going that route. But, I think Kevin McCarthy will eventually be elected Speaker of the House. I do see that happening as long as he makes some concessions. We do have some clips of people in the Freedom Caucus who actually strongly disagree with the direction that we're going. And I don't think you could get two more different people than Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene on this topic, which they typically are on the same side of every topic. So this has been really interesting to watch. And I think we have a clip of Matt Gaetz.
I'm not voting for Kevin McCarthy for Speaker because I think he's just a shill of the establishment. I think that Kevin McCarthy is little more than a through which lobbyists and special interests operate. And the reason most of my Republican colleagues are supporting him is because they benefit from the redistribution of lobbyist and special interest money through McCarthy to their campaign accounts. And the bottom line is that's not going to work anymore. We need someone like Jim Jordan as the Speaker of the House, who can cast a vision and who has the trust and confidence of people across the spectrum in the House.
KJP said that the Republicans are up to border stunts. They're doing publicity stunts at the border.
Kevin McCarthy's at the border. What is his plan? What is he doing to help the situation that we're seeing? He goes down there and he does a political stunt like many Republicans do, but he actually is not putting forth a plan to help us deal with an issue that we're all seeing, that you all are reporting.
Do you think that's what McCarthy is doing when he goes down to the border? What I'm asking you is, do you think he has a plan for the border? Does McCarthy have a plan?
Well, the plan ought to be to impeach Mayorkas. And McCarthy was against that until he saw that he needed the votes of populist conservatives, and then all of a sudden has changed his tune. I don't believe that's sincere. I know we have a crisis on the border. We're going to be at the point where we have tens of thousands of people coming over each and every day, and we need a Republican Party willing to stand up to that. And actually, Paul Ryan, like that wing of the Republican Party, they believe in unchecked immigration because it lowers wages and it lowers labor costs for big business. And when Paul Ryan was pushing the pro-amnesty agenda through the Congress as the leader, well, Kevin McCarthy was right there by his side, not standing with us, not standing up for the real asylum changes, not standing up against the pathway to citizenship that some of the rhinos want. So I have not seen McCarthy fight enough on the border.
What went wrong in the midterms for Republicans? You guys won the House. A lot of people think that you guys underperformed. What do you think went wrong?
Well, I think it was a real mistake to have our own leadership playing in primaries and hurting us when we wanted to coalesce around candidates. I'll give you two quick examples. Caroline Leavitt in New Hampshire. McCarthy spent millions against her. She then was our nominee and lost a close race. Joe Kent in Washington State. McCarthy was against him, really shepherded millions of dollars in lobbyist and special interest money against him, and then he loses a very close race. So we did some of this to ourselves, and like the Commitment to America agenda was sort of a punchline in search of policy. We need the type of bold solutions we've been discussing: asylum reform, internal enforcement of our immigration laws, breaking up big tech, and conducting the investigations to expose where our government has been weaponized against our people.
And we did not get timely responses from Mr. McCarthy. We did not get substantive responses from Mr. McCarthy because I think he thought that just by going on your network and others that he would browbeat us into submission to the swamp. And we're not going to do that.
So just to be clear, none of what you heard in there from McCarthy was enough to get your support.
Everything I heard hardened my resolve that this town desperately needs change, and if it's a few of us who have to stand in the breach to force it, we are willing to do so for as long as it takes.
So, Matt Gaetz, firebrand. With the
He
name of his
definitely
book, by
is.
the way. So telling it like it is.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, it's one of those deals where we don't have a choice unless we want the Democrats to be back in control.
I don't think anyone is willing to vote for Hakeem Jeffries on the Republican side. Not even a Mitt Romney, I don't think. But
Never know.
I mean, I see more. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think as long as Kevin McCarthy makes the concessions needed, I think that he will see him get those votes. But there are certain things that need to be in place in order for him to be held accountable to, and it can't be these broad, like the Commitment to America. There was no strict policy in that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very vague thing that they presented to everyone.
It wasn't like when Newt Gingrich came up with the contract for America back those 30 plus years ago. But it is something that maybe McCarthy is seeing the light of day from the standpoint of how the people are standing against him and what they are standing against him for, and that at least he will go along with it, just like Bill Clinton went along after he got his head handed to him in that first congressional race when the Republicans took over for the first time in 40 years, and he started cooperating with the Democrats. Said, okay, all right, I'll go along with this tax reform. I'll go along with work for welfare and that sort of thing, and it worked. And he was one of my least favorite presidents. The one that's there now is the least. So Jimmy Carter's off the hook, and so is Bill Clinton.
Wow.
Nevertheless, it's just amazing what we have to put up with, and maybe McCarthy will see the light and realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done this. I'll go along with these people, but we have to get this done. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of those who is another firebrand.
Yes.
So from right here in Georgia, winning another landslide election that, of course, the Democrats have just got their shorts in a wad about, but nothing new there. And she has some thoughts on it too, right?
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
My Freedom Caucus colleagues and my supposed friends that went and did that, and they asked nothing for me. Nothing. That's what I found out in there. I am furious. Well, let me tell you something. While the conservatives that the base supports and believes in, let me remind everyone, they're not perfect either. Scott Perry, before his general election, refused to vote against the bill that was all about the gay marriage bill. He didn't. He refused to vote against it. He voted for it. Then, when it came back around after his election, he was able to vote against it. Conservatives would not like that. Let me remind everyone this. Matt Gaetz, who has compared Kevin McCarthy to Paul Ryan, my friend Matt Gaetz, he supported Paul Ryan almost more than anyone. It's still on his social media. As a matter of fact, his first vote in Congress was for Paul Ryan as Speaker. And then he cheered him on for nearly a year and a half or more when people like me were at home furious at Paul Ryan's speakership because it wasn't passing the MAGA agenda that we all supported. Chip Roy, he refused to object on January 6th. That's not what our base wanted. He also set out the vote for the January 6th committee. There's many more. Bob Good, $2 million from Kevin McCarthy to get elected. Lauren Boebert, under $2 million from Kevin McCarthy to get elected. Many more people have taken Kevin McCarthy's money to get elected, and then there's a few of them that don't want to support him as Speaker.
So nobody's perfect.
Definitely not, especially if you're in politics, Bill. I mean, if you want your dirty laundry aired, be a politician.
Yes, sir. So there you go. Coming up next, they were up late last night trying to get McCarthy in. We'll talk more about that and other items coming up next on Get Real America.
We'll be right back.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was, and that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care can keep families together. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And it has been scientifically proven. You have a pet, you can it lowers your blood pressure just petting them.
Yes, having a pet is the best thing you can have.
Yeah, so please adopt a pet. Okay?
Yes,
head down to the shelter as soon as possible and get somebody who somebody who needs a help.
Yes, absolutely.
By the way, by late last night, Brittany, about a dozen pizzas or more were wheeled into Kevin McCarthy's office indicating that there was some sort of
party going on.
Negotiations going on galore. And something that Sean Hannity had recommended, get this this arbitration going, get all in a room, get rid of the cell phones, and just slug it out, and get this thing taken care of. So that's what we need.
Well, and one quick thing, why do we always have someone from California or New York running the government? That's the thing that I have a hard time with too.
Yeah.
Is that they don't represent Republicans from those areas typically are not as conservative as we would like to see. So those are the people that are running the government and making those large decisions. So I would like to, eventually see us quit electing people in leadership from, California and New York all the time, because that's what we have. I mean, even Elise Stefanik, she is from New York and she is in leadership. I would like to see more firebrand people. I think that that's a wish that may not come true for a very long time, but I do like populists. I do think that they have the country at their forefront, and they really are thinking of what's best for America, which I think is really important these days.
Well, you got to keep working at it, and you got to keep chipping away, and it's one of those things that I can remember that Eric Johnson, who served us here very, very well in the Georgia legislature for a number of years. When he was first elected like 30 years ago, you could count the Republicans in the Georgia House and Senate on one hand. And we now are in the majority and have been for quite a while. It looks like we've got a pretty strong hold on that from the last election. So from that standpoint, it's just one of those things where you have to just keep working on it and keep hammering away, and it might be just chip, chip, chip. And listen, we didn't get here overnight. No. We're not going to get out of this thing overnight either, with all the liberals in charge and trying the one particular party destroying America, letting people in who don't belong here. And I'm terribly sorry when you hear Karine Jean-Pierre, who's got to be the dumbest woman. If she's not the dumbest person on the planet, she's in the top 2. So that's all I can say is that, because when somebody asks her a question, you can see her thumb. Let's see, what's my answer that this is supposed to be?
What lie am I going to tell?
That's right, yeah, because she's got this. You ever see her take this book off the thing? It looks like Webster's Unabridged Dictionary.
But when you looked at Kayleigh McEnany's, hers was like, you could thumb through that thing. It was so organized, and she could go right to the page and say, okay, this is what I know. This
exactly.
is, and she could come back with something really quickly.
And she would she would tell them, when we have a long weekend or something, said, we do this, and this, there's your homework. And but the media, of course, didn't do their homework.
No, she's one of the best press secretaries I think we've had, along with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I thought she was wonderful.
Tony Snow was one of the best as well. God rest his soul.
Well, and Bill, one thing that I wanted to just bring up is the vote for the RNC is actually January 27th, which I think is really important. There are 3 people that represent us here in the state that I think people need to contact their precinct chairs and tell them who they want them to vote for. It's between Ronna McDaniel, which I'm just going to point out, this election is being held at Dana Point, California. Why would we have an RNC event in California? Why would we give them money? Just questions to ask. And we have Mike Lindell and Harmeet Dillon running for that seat. I would take either one of them. I'm a big fan of Harmeet Dillon.
I am too.
She's done a lot, and she has a great vision for what the RNC could look like, including hiring someone like Scott Pressler, who's been a huge advocate on the Republican side and has done a lot to register voters and get people out to vote. So big fan of her, but I think people should really reach out and contact Schaefer and I think her name's Ginger, and I'm trying to think of the other person that are the voting members. I'll get that information to you guys, but we need to contact precinct people and those people to try and get Ronna McDaniel out. She's
been a disaster.
Yeah.
She has been a disaster. There's no doubt about it. She needs to go. Love to see Mike Lindell in there, but Harmeet Dillon, who is a fantastic attorney. She's won some pretty big cases lately too.
Well, and she's been working on the Carrie Lake stuff.
Yeah. So
and she's not afraid.
No, she's not. She doesn't bite her tongue, and she would be perfect. While Mike can continue to make all the great My Pillow products and get surrounded by the FBI at Hardee's when he goes in to get a hamburger. So how did they know he was at Hardee's? It's kind of interesting.
We all have trackers, Bill.
Yeah,
they're called cell phones.
What do you know? Meanwhile, border problems. And one of the things that they talked about, and one of the things that Matt Gaetz was talking about just a moment ago, was how these people are pouring across the border. So what are we doing about? Well, this administration's on it. They really are. By God, they're sending down some more help.
They're always solving problems.
Yes,
always solving problems.
Yeah, and the rest of the media is not covering this. Somebody said, "Well, finally the media is covering this story." No, they're not. They're covering it as a humanitarian problem. You know, that we need to help these people. We need to give them all the money and all the resources and all the housing that they possibly need, unless of course they're going to Martha's Vineyard. So but that's how the media is covering this for the most part. It is a disaster. And it's going to get worse even in the skies. Why? And what does that one have to do with the other? Well, you're going to find out, because they're sending sky marshals down to help out with border security, which means that they're not going to be on the airplanes, as we find out in this report.
A long-running battle over immigration enforcement is now in the hands of the U.S. Supreme Court. The Biden administration wants to prioritize the deportation of undocumented migrants who pose the greatest risk to public safety. Republican attorneys general in Texas and Louisiana sued to stop the policy. It's now on hold until the high court rules. Today's oral arguments coming as the administration has now started diverting federal air marshals to the southern border. Correspondent Allie Bradley is live for us in Sierra Vista, Arizona. So, Allie, why is this happening?
Yeah, Nicole, so it's really because of this record-breaking encounter numbers that we're experiencing month after month that DHS has been prompted to reroute these air marshals to be down along the southern border. Now, a source that I talked with who is an air marshal tells me that while he can confirm that this is happening, they are being rerouted to work along the southern border. He says some reports out there suggest that there's only 1% of domestic flights that are currently manned with an air marshal. And he says, quote, that number seems a little extreme. So the reality of this situation here is, it's full disclosure this afternoon, is that this isn't the first time that this has happened. DHS has requested air marshals be sent to the border. This was happening again during 2019. That is when encounters exceeded 850,000. Granted, that's only a fraction of what we're experiencing now. I did talk with TSA, a spokesperson with the Transportation Security Administration, saying, quote, federal air marshals will continue to support our critical mission on the ground and on board aircrafts. The deployment of federal air marshals to execute DHS's mission at the southwest border on a reimbursable basis is temporary. TSA says the Federal Air Marshal Service workforce continues their important work in transportation security. Now, this all comes as Border Patrol, as DHS putting out the call for more Border Patrol agents, doubling the incentive, Nicole. So it was $10,000 for new recruits. They have doubled that. It is now $20,000 for new recruits to the Border Patrol sector. They are in desperate need of agents here. And something I think is really interesting here to leave you with, Nicole, is I talked with some of my Border Patrol sources, and they tell me it's really interesting that Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of DHS, making these calls, making these rerouting moves here, he's maintaining that the border is secure. So if the border is secure, Border Patrol agents are confused as to why more resources are needed along the southern border right now if there is no crisis to be had, Nicole.
Yeah, certainly begs that question. Okay, Allie, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Welcome back. I mean...
So you're going to send air marshals. We're hearing all sorts of things from some of the terrorist organizations about how they have plans to use airplanes again as weapons, and we're taking air marshals. This administration does not care about the security of America, and they ought to be arrested for treason.
They're creating a lot of problems that are putting us in danger that I don't even think people realize how extreme it can get.
What's the prime directive of the government?
To protect and serve its people.
Yeah. And this one ain't. More coming up.
We'll be back. touch with us at info@granewsmedia.com, or you can give us a call at 912-376-9295. Good morning and welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And the great, here we are, hump day already, getting ready. You have to keep telling yourself what day it is when you have those Monday holidays, so because you get to be a day behind. But by the way, we just want to thank Sweet Potatoes and Bernard Williams as our as new sponsors for us. And especially at Sweet Potatoes, if you haven't had their wonderful home cooking, then you're missing a treat. And that banana pudding is absolutely out of this world. It may be illegal in some states. So
I have not ever had banana pudding.
That's child abuse.
I guess I need to get on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, Brian Hood said, good morning and Happy New Year. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. I definitely did. I hope you did too, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bill did too.
Yep. Enjoyed it, being home and not traveling and being with the grandkids a little bit. Even though my wife and I were kind of under the weather, shall we say?
Yeah.
In many cases, and so was the rest of the family for that matter. So it was all going around. So it was one big happy family. So we got together and all the germs mingled up and killed each other. So
I like it.
So we hit the comeback trail. Normally we open presents on Christmas Eve. But we didn't do it. We said let's just hold off for the first time in history. So do we all get better? And on Christmas Day, our grandson, one of our grandsons, called up and said, "Can we come to your house tonight to get our Christmas presents?" And said, "Yeah, okay, what the heck?" So we had to
come on over.
Yeah,
yes.
It was fantastic.
Yes, I will say I did take a little bit of a break from the news as well. Mm-hmm. That was kind of nice to not think about the shenanigans going on in the U.S. and
there's lots of shenanigans.
Yes, lots of reality this week for sure.
We'd be remiss if we didn't pay tribute to one of the pioneers in the broadcast biz.
Yes, she changed the way that people. It's so funny when you talk to people in this business. They're like, like the interview, like Barbara Walters style. Mm-hmm. She basically created her own style of interviewing, which a lot of people really like. I enjoy that type of interview, and she changed a lot for broadcasting and journalism.
She had a way of laser focusing and cutting through the crapola.
Yep.
And saying, that's not the answer I wanted. That's not what I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Barbara Walters going off to be with the Lord at the age of 92 last week, or maybe it was the week before.
It was last week.
Yeah, it was last week. And she was something else. And this is a tribute to a fantastic pioneer in the broadcast biz.
This week. He is the freshest face in politics. There's been so much anger and so much conflict. Do you think it's going to change?
Well, it happens in many presidencies. This isn't the first.
Your parents divorced when you were a year old. Each.
I'm not going to cry, by the way. Okay, just.
How do you know I'm not going to make you cry? I'm not going to try to, Senator, okay?
Okay.
That was Barbara Walters when she anchored this program back in 2010. It seemed Barbara interviewed just about everybody who had an impact on our world. But it was her political interviews with some of the most influential leaders of our time that helped shape the course of history. Barbara Walters was a pioneer, a legend in the fields of journalism and television, a woman who interviewed rock stars, killers, celebrities, and scoundrels. At This Week, we remember especially her groundbreaking political interviews. She interviewed Richard Nixon, first as president, and then 6 years after he resigned in disgrace, a live, hour-long interview that was classic Barbara Walters.
I would like people who were close to you in one way or another. They say that you are cold, remote, and that they were unable to reach you.
Why are you interviewing me then?
Even people like Henry Kissinger, who knows you very well, talk about this remoteness, this inability to reach you.
I like Henry very much.
Let us go on. In those days.
Why don't we get serious?
Well, because I think people are still, I am serious. People are interested in you. People are still trying to understand you. I'm sorry you find that you find these questions unserious.
At the very end of the interview, a burning question for the president brought down because of the tapes of his Oval Office conversations.
In just a few seconds we have left now, and there's almost just time for a yes or no. Are you sorry you didn't burn the tapes?
You know, interestingly enough, everybody in Europe that I talked to said, why didn't you burn the tapes? And the answer is, I probably should have.
But if you had it to do all over again, you'd burn them.
Yes, I think so, because they were private conversations.
She would go on to interview Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, who she visited at his California ranch. Both Bushes and every president up to Barack Obama. In 1996, she asked a particularly prescient question to Bill Clinton.
Mr. President, character is said to be a major issue in this campaign. How important is it for the president to be a role model?
I think it's important for the president to be a role model as a leader for the country.
3 years later, she interviewed Monica Lewinsky.
Did you ever tell Bill Clinton that you were in love with him?
Yes.
You did. What did he say?
He said that means a lot to me.
Did he ever tell you that he was in love with you?
No.
She took most pride in her interviews with foreign leaders, a groundbreaking one with Fidel Castro in 1977.
Do you feel funny crossing the Bay of Pigs with an American?
You didn't come here to invade the country.
A joint interview with Israeli leader Menachem Begin and Egyptian leader Anwar Sadat. She interviewed Muammar Gaddafi and Vladimir Putin, not holding back one bit.
I'm going to ask you a terrible question. Did you ever order anyone killed?
Yeah. In 2011, already in her 80s, she made a dangerous trip into war-torn Syria for an interview with dictator Bashar al-Assad.
Much of the world regards you as a dictator and a tyrant. What do you say to that?
What's important how the Syrian people look at you, not how you look at yourself.
Barbara interviewed Donald Trump many times before he was president, asking questions that resonate years later. This was an interview in 1987, when Trump was just 41 years old.
If you could be appointed president and didn't have to run, would you like to be president?
I don't know, interestingly. You know, part of the enjoyment of something and part of the whole thing is the battle. If you could be appointed, I'm not sure that would be the same ballgame. The seeking, it's the quest that really I believe, it's the hunt that I believe that I love.
3 years later, she interviewed him again, grilling him on his debts and his bankruptcies.
Being on the verge of bankruptcy, being bailed out by the banks,
well, you don't have to say
skating on thin ice and almost drowning, that's a businessman to be admired?
You say on the verge of bankruptcy, Barbara, and you talk on the verge, and you listen to what people are saying.
I talk to your bankers.
Well, that's fine. And what do they say? I mean, you know, depending on which banker you're talking to, what do they say?
From the heart of the nation's capital, This Week with ABC's Barbara Walters, live.
We also remember that Barbara Walters guest hosted this very program in January 2010, scoring the first interview with Republican Scott Brown after he upended congressional politics by winning Ted Kennedy's old Senate seat.
I'm not going to cry, by the way. Okay, just...
How do you know I'm not going to make you cry?
Here's how she signed off that show.
I'm Barbara Walters for ABC News. Thank you for sharing your Sunday with us.
A remarkable.
One of the things that interesting they didn't mention, especially from an ABC report, was she became the first female anchor on a network newscast with with the late great Harry Reasoner as the co-anchor on the ABC evening news.
Maybe ABC forgot what a woman is, and so they didn't really
they
need to
might
report
have,
that.
They
But
might have checked in with a Supreme Court justice, but
Yes.
nevertheless,
Yes, but
she was a force of nature.
well, and she interviewed Vladimir Putin's face. He is a scary guy.
He really is.
And she interviewed everyone, serial killer. I mean, just such a incredible interviewer. And regardless of politics and things like that, she did incredible things for journalism.
She did, and it was interesting that she got. Well, wasn't she part? She was also part of the Pew. I'm sorry,
She
View,
was on The View
for several years as well.
I think it was before it got really horrible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
To be fair.
If you tune in now, you're going to lower your IQ by 10 points. But
At
nevertheless, she kept a more level head, shall we say, before Joyless Behar took over as the main squeeze there.
Yes, but she, Barbara Walters was a force to be reckoned with, and I think she did a lot of good. So before things got too crazy in politics, but
she was, of course, she was a co-host on 2020. They mentioned that, of course, you saw that with the late great Hugh Downs, as well. And she and John Stossel always had some interesting things to say about when Stossel would do his pro business reports, shall we say.
Yeah.
It's interesting about Stossel as well. When he was doing anti-business reports, he got something like 12 or 13 Emmy Awards. When he started doing pro-business stuff and showing the greatness of America and the free enterprise system, was never even nominated for an Emmy.
yeah, it's weird when you talk about negative things. People are, they encourage that behavior. But I will say, Barbara Walters didn't mince words with people either. She got to the point and asked questions very directly, and I think some people were caught off guard by that. And that is what journalism used to be. There was no softball questions. It was, Leslie, what's her name? Leslie Stahl?
Leslie Stahl? Oh,
yeah.
Airhead Leslie Stahl, yeah.
Terrible interviewer. Softball questions, depending on who she's interviewing. So
she's awful.
I don't think that Barbara Walters really played that game. I think she treated everyone with the same directness and the same abruptness sometimes of, you're going to answer this question.
Right. Yeah. Leslie's paycheck should be gift wrapped. Yeah. So... nevertheless, CBS is going to keep her. Yeah, that's why we call it the communist broadcast system. Yeah. But to Barbara Walters, go with God.
Yes, and thank you for all you did for broadcasting. Well, I think we're about out of time today. I think we covered the gamut.
I think we pretty much run it. But we will be back tomorrow to cover some more.
Yes.
And get real. Get in touch with us. GRAnewsmedia.com. We'd love to hear from you. And share this with your friends.
Yes, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Remember to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, or anywhere you get your podcasts, such as Apple or Spotify. Have a good day.